Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Jonas Kraus. I'm working with Professor Heitor Silvério Lopes from the Technical Federal University of Paraná here in Brazil. Our work is a phoneme-based deepfake detection system. We would also like to thank the Brazilian National Council of Research and Development for the scholarship that made this work possible. So a quick introduction. So we're considering deepfakes manipulated videos that make someone realistic appear to be doing or saying something that they actually didn't do. So our method here try to discover mouth reenactments videos. They are also known as dubbing, by analyzing specific phonemes of the target language and the individual's mouth movements during that pronunciation. So we make a correlation here between the sound, the phoneme of a specific phoneme that we select to analyze, and the mouth movements and some video features that we extract during that phoneme pronunciation to make a data set that we could identify deepfake videos in case we need it. So we have three main contributions in this paper. First, I created the first Portuguese deepfake data set. You have the link there if you want to see. We have more than 100 videos that I created between some public figures here in Brazil and myself. So you can actually see some deepfake videos that we produce by mixing these faces. And we use that to create what we called the first phoneme-based deepfake detection system, or PDDS. So this system basically extracts two sets of features: the mouth landmarks and some kinetics features of the video of the person saying that specific phoneme, and then compares throughout the deepfake video if that pattern exists or not. So we create some experiments using support vector machine, the SVM, and some pre-processing techniques of the data. And we compare these the extracted features with this classification method on different classification kernels. So what is the system? So the PDDS actually, what it does, when it goes to analyze a new video, it extracts the length of the video and transcribes the text with timestamps of every five seconds. That's important because every 5 seconds we're gonna have some clips of the video, and we're gonna authenticate that clip by the patterns that we encounter on the phonemes. And then we select the phonemes to be analyzed. So I'm working on Portuguese. So we focus on two main phonemes that we have in our language that it's not very common in other ones, which is the So that's very, you can see in my mouth when I say some word with that phoneme, like pão. You can see the mouth doing the movement necessary for that phoneme. So that's what we are collecting to check if the videos are fake or real. So using these correspondent 5-second clips, we extract the face images from that clip and the mouth landmarks and features from all those images extracted from that 5-second clip. After that, we classify the data grouped by 7 frames. So these 7 frames represent one phoneme. So the mouth movement is represented by the sequence of these 7 phonemes, of the 7 frames, to represent one phoneme. And then we classify it as true or false inside of the clip. So here we have an example. This is our ex-president. We just changed the president now. This is Jair Bolsonaro. And you can see the 7 images of a clip where he's saying the phoneme "ão." So you can see that his mouth is moving a little bit. So we try to get this pattern of the mouth so we can link with the correct video. So you can imagine that a deepfake video will not produce these movements so well. So that's actually the pattern that we are looking for. So after I extracted all these features, I used 3 different kernels in the SVM method to classify linear, polynomial, and the RBF, which is the radial basis function, as you can see here. And here are some of our results, the experiments. So you can see the first line, you have the titles, the SVM, the preprocess that we used. Here, the preprocess, we used the data raw as we collected from the mouth landmarks. We also use the first and second derivative of the SG filter. And we also compared the features that we extracted. So we extracted mouth landmarks, the i3D Kinect features, and we classified the deepfake videos according to those and the combining of those features. As you can see, the SVM with the RBF kernel outperformed the other ones. And it was interesting to see that the best performance was made by the combination of those features, not only the mouth movements, but also the i3D Kinects. So we achieve almost 90% of those 100 videos that we classified, correctly classified as deepfake or real ones. So as a conclusion, we think it is possible to identify deepfake using these phoneme-based patterns of the mouth landmarks and the other extracted features. And we also understand that maybe more features will even help even more the system, right? So we focus here on the mouth landmarks to make the correct correlation with the mouth movement of the phoneme, but other features can be added as well. We introduced also the first Brazilian Portuguese deepfake dataset with 104 videos, being 8 original ones and 96 deepfake ones. So you can check those on the link that I shared with you. You can see, as I told you, it's four persons with 2 original videos of each one of them. And then I created those deepfakes for this project. And we presented the first phoneme-based deepfake detection system with SVM algorithm and multiple kernels to make this classification. That's basically it. I'll let you guys open if you have any questions. I'd like to thank you for your participation.
Thank you, Dr. Jonas, for your wonderful presentation and nice research work.
Thank you. In this opportunity, I will present the research entitled Rhizospheric Microbial Diversity of Indian Wetland of Central Peru using Metabarcorin Analysis. These giant Indian wetlands are characterized by peatlands that resemble vegetation mats that sequester more carbon than forests. They are known as kinates of the earth because they purify and regulate water and climate. They are also a source of water, fodder, of livestock, grazing, fuel, and tourism for the local people. Our study was conducted in the Pumacocha wetland and gas region, central Peru, during the dry season located near the Andes mountain range. The wetland is acid in nature. In this wetland, identify areas with and without anthropogenic impact due to overgrazing, evidenced by the excess presence of chemical feces. This reduced vegetation cover water, soil, moisture, and therefore is rhizospheric microbial community, which is important for reforestation studies. Human intervention degrades the wetlands. Microorganisms serve as probiotic in soils and reduce plant stress. Regarding soil microbiome, Their remains alike on understand based on how this aspect of soil health impact wetland resilience. The DNA metamarcoding technique was using to monitor the microbial diversity of soil because it considered both culturable and non-culturable bacteria, in addition to obtaining a higher taxonomy resolution considering environmental factors. Therefore, we evaluate whether there are variations in the microbial diversity of rhizospheric soils between areas with anthropogenic impact and areas without this impact in the Pumacocha wetland and Ring, Peru. Materials and methods. The workflow for DNA metabarcoding of rhizospheric soils with and without anthropogenic impact began with sample of the depth of 5 to 20 centimeters to locate stress-resistant bacteria in extreme nutrient-poor condition. The soil were placed in preservation solution, mechanically and chemically cleaned with calcium chloride. The DNA was extracted and its quality was evaluated with electrophoresis, spectrophotometry, and fluorometry. Sequencing of the 16S gene running bit 3 and bit 4 was performed using Illumina assay. This is bioinformatic analysis to evaluate the composition and relative abundance of the microorganisms by prediction amplicon sequence variant, which were correlation with environment variable of the soil. The quality of the extraction DNA in both areas had concentration between 50 and 180 nanograms per microliter by fluorometry, and there were no significant amount of humic acids impurities. Result and discussion. The analysis of the main physicochemical parameters showed that the soils in the areas not affected by anthropogenic activity had higher level of electrical conduction and organic matter because the dry season slows microbial decomposition. The pH was acid in both areas because they are mountain peatlands. A treatment of the raw data obtained in a sequencing and their amount of ASB was found in the area impacted by anthropogenic activity. Regarding the analysis of microbial diversity, the species composition was similar in about zones. Therefore, both zones present a different combination anchored to the bright Cortes index. The taxonomy assignment of the ASB at the genus level was carried out. It was found that the no impacted zone in the dry season present an unknown bacterial community in greater proportion, followed by Bacillus bacteria that could include plant growth promoters. Phototropic rhodomicrobial bacteria talcansium CO2 were also predominant. In contrast, in the impact zone, all these acidic bacteria predominated. In addition, abundant plant infection nematode and dosambient Syphinematobac bacteria were found. Between the zone, the manufactured zones, and more plant species, including Werneria pygmea, an indicator space of plant health that was absent in the zone impact by anthropogenic activity. Conclusions. It was concluded that similar microbial combinations in both study areas suggest the adaptability of microorganisms to different environment conditions. Bacteria of the genus Bacillus and Rhodomicrobium have soil restoration potential in the anthropogenic impacted zones. However, the higher levels of organic matter and electrical conductivity in the no-impact zone could be related to the advance of plant species. Is a recommendation to perform metabarcoding studies together with metagenomic studies to perform the studies at various times of the year and the long term, and to include new methodologies to explore the potential of no-culturable bacteria. Finally, I would like to thank Prociencia for financing the main people in share of the project, the NGO Jurek Yaku, my mentor for instruction me at the molecular biology and genomics laboratory in Chachapoyas, Amazonas, Peru, and to the Congress for allow me to make this research now. Thank you for attention.
I'm myself Harshita Tiwari and Dr. Prerna. We are going to present on swarm intelligence and its optimization models. Starting with the outline, we will be telling about the optimization, introduction to the swarm intelligence, what it is all about, history of SI, the general principles, and finally the swarm intelligence models, which will be discussed by Dr. Prerna. So optimization. Next, we start with optimization. So what basically optimization refers to. So it will be a process by which we will be finding the optimal values for any specific system. But how are we going to find the optimal values? By keeping in mind that we are having all the design requirements at the lowest cost. And lowest cost means we will be calculating the optimal values of the parameters for any given system. Also, keeping in mind that it should fulfill all the design requirements while keeping the cost minimum. Now, next is introduction to what basically swarm intelligence is all about. It is basically a type of artificial intelligence where the agents basically interact with each other and with their environment in a decentralized and self-organizing system. So in short, it is also referred to as SI. So in the next slides, we might be considering or we might be denoting swarm intelligence as SI. There are various algorithms which are provided by these intelligence-based domains, and that are basically applicable from industrial applications to the scientific research. The swarm intelligence is basically used to represent any collective behavior of social swarms in nature, such as we consider, for example, ant colonies, honeybees, and flocks of birds. So we will be studying their basic nature, and then we will be optimizing the various algorithms, and those will be helping in optimization process. So starting with the history, so we start with 1989, when G. Benny and J. Wang, they developed the concept of swarm intelligence as a framework, as a collection of algorithm for robotic swarm control. Okay, so history, 1989, it was first introduced. After that, in 1991, the ant colony optimization was introduced by M. Dorigo, followed by 1995, where the particle swarm optimization was introduced by J. Kennedy. And 2005 was the artificial bee colony algorithm that was proposed by D. Garabago as a new family member of the swarm intelligence algorithms. Now, to study the broad behaviors which have arisen from the swarm, we will be introducing the several general principles. So the general principles, we have proximity principle, quality principle, principle of diverse response, and principle of stability and adaptability. starting with what proximity principle relates to. So the basic unit, we can say, of swarm, that should be basically capable of simple computation related to the surrounding environment. Computation here relates to what? The direct behavioral response to the environmental variables, such as those who are having interaction among the various agents. Now, depending upon the complexity, like what the complexities are involved with the various agents, the responses may vary. So some fundamental behaviors, however, the responses do vary greatly, but some fundamental behaviors are still shared, such as living resources, searching, and nest building. These are common between them. Next, we come on to the quality principle. So the basic computation ability, a swarm should also be able to respond to the various quality factors. And the quality factors include such as food and safety. Third comes the principle of diverse response. Now, you see, the resources cannot be concentrated to a narrow region. So the distribution should be designed so that each agent will be maximally protected facing environmental fluctuations. Even if there are environmental fluctuations, the distribution should be so designed that it is applicable for the diverse environmental fluctuations. Then we have the principle of stability and adaptability. Like, the swarms are expected to adapt if there are any environmental fluctuations, if there are any changes along with the changing modes. So what happens? The stability and adaptability should follow. Otherwise, the mode changing, or we can say the fluctuations, may lead to changing costs, and which will be very costly, and it will not lead to optimization. After this, we have the swarm intelligence models. Dr. Prerna.
Thank you, Harshita ma'am. Now we are going for the models of the swarm intelligence. These are called as different models are present here, that are ant colony optimization model. It is also called as ACO model. This model is widely used in solving that optimization problem and different tasks in industries and commercial applications. Ant colony optimization model is a probabilistic technique that is used for solving for computational problem, like computational problem for finding food path in the graphs also. ACO is developed on the is basically developed on the behavior of the ants, that how they find their food in the shortest path or in the way in their food, how ants find their food sources is optimized way by following the shortest path. In this method, here is the hyperactive behavior of the ants, where the shortest path is found. In this, the ant find their food sources by releasing the solution that is called as pheromone. It is one type of liquid that is released on the path by every ant when they find their good source of food. And the probability of taking that route is also proportional to the level of the pheromone that is released by the group of ant, or to follow the route. So in that way, the optimal solution or the optimized path is followed. The optimized path can be detected, we can say that find by using this method. The second is the bee colony method. That is, it is the optimization technique. It inspires on the food searching and behavior of the honeybees. The honeybees or the bees live in a colony, and they search for their better quality of food by living in their colony. The bees are trying to solve our optimization problem by finding the best food. In this, there are some steps. The first step is called, this is the flow chart of the bee colony optimization method. The first step is the scout phase. In this scout phase, some scout bees randomly search for their food. And the second phase is called the exploitation phase, in which the scout bees become gatherers, and they start collecting food from their food source. And the bee returns their colony or their home by performing a waggle dance. When they find their best food or the best source of food, the scout bees return their home and they perform their waggle dance, and the dance gives the information to the other bees they about the quality of food and about the location of that food. And the third step is the reinforcement or the recruitment process. In this, the bees from better quality of food source perform better dance, or they give better signals for the other bees to recreate or to find the roots. In this way, we get the feedback type of concept, and the more value will get the more number of bees. The better dance or the more value will give the better location or the better location of the food. In this way, the better food source roots get the reinforced with the positive feedback. The next phase is the scout phase, when food source is exploited, or certain bees start the exploring it once again. When the food source is over, the scout bees that are from the first food source exploits the naked and the second source of food by finding the new path or by finding the new location. Some of the bees, those were exploiting the previous source, come their colony or come their home. And again, when the second scout return back their colony and send their signal for the new food or new location, the return bee or the bees that stays in colony again looks forward for the new source. So the optimization can be done by finding the best solutions. There are some advantage of bee colony optimization. That is meta-heuristic. It is a meta-heuristic problem solving method. It is used for the management and engineering control, and the concept of cooperation is also inherited, and the capability of the bee colony optimization has the capability through the information exchange and recruiting the process. The next optimization method is the particle swarm optimization method. The particle swarm optimization method is used to solve the very difficult problems that are very difficult in computational based problem or the population based problem. It is also called as the stochastic algorithm. The stochastic means that something which is randomly determined. In PSO or particle swarm optimization method, it is inspired by the social behavior of the bird flocking or the fish schooling. This algo works on the iteration basis. In this method, the iteration, as the number of iteration increase, that means the number of turns or number of iteration increase, the chances of getting optimal solution is also getting increased. That we get the more number of iteration will get the maximum optimized solution or maximum optimized output. So it can be easily said that it optimizes by the iteratively trying to improve the candidate solution with regard to give measure of quality. These are the some advantage of particle swarm optimization. It is the very simple concept. It is very easy to implement, easy implementation, and the computational efficiency when compared with the mathematical algorithm and other heuristic algorithm techniques. There are one disadvantage for this method is that it is easy to fall into local optimum in high dimensional space and has a low convergence rate in the iterative process. The last optimum search algorithm is the cuckoo search algorithm method. Cuckoo search algorithm method was developed in 2009 by the Xingxi Yang, and it is inspired by the brood parasite of the cuckoo birds. That cuckoo birds laid their eggs on the other birds' nest. So this cuckoo search algorithm is based on the laying their eggs in the nest of the other host birds. In the host bird, if the host bird discover the eggs are not their own, it will through the eggs of the cuckoo bird or destroy his own nest, and the simply abandon its nest, build a new nest. They build their new nest in elsewhere or some other place. So in the cuckoo search algorithm, the redundant information and the not required information are replaced or are rejected. So it depends on the information values. The cuckoo search algorithm is also called as the meta-heuristic algorithm, and this shows the flowchart of the cuckoo search algorithm. The conclusion of this study is that we are focusing on the different methods, we're focusing on the different methods of optimization methods, such as particle SWAM and cuckoo search are the mostly used techniques, and the most straightforward using particle directly look into the best solution. PSO algorithm are also able to prevent local minimums and other problems related population technologies. And the cuckoo search algorithm is the most popular fascinating algorithm. It imitates cuckoo's brood parrotism and better safeguarding throughout the possible answers and discard undesirable arises. That means that it is used to discard unwanted condition or iterations by using the cuckoo search algorithms. So here's
let's just get it full screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we'd like to present a research topic on comparative sentiment analysis of Twitter data on climate conferences. Firstly, let us start with the background behind the creation of this paper. Historically, we have observed the degradation of climate with the advent of industrial revolution throughout the world. Today, we have reached a tipping point. The threat of the climate change is looming above us, and collective action needs to be taken on a global scale. Now, to take such coordinated action, governments around the world, with the help of the United Nations, have been meeting every year since 1995, when the first climate conference was held. It was named the COP, which is an abbreviation to the Conference of Parties. There were no major policy decisions that were substantial enough that took place for around 20 years. Only recently, when the Paris Agreement was made in COP21, was something substantial for the climate took place. Now, from there on, with the looming threat of climate change, these climate conferences have become increasingly important. Next slide. Many of the participating governments in the climate summit are democracies, which is the rule of the people for the people and by the people. We have seen the rise of political parties taking the green agenda at its helm. For instance, in Germany, as you can see on the right, this is the flag of the Green Party. This is the flag of the Green Party of Germany, which in coalition with other parties today are in power in the German parliament. What we can see here is the increasing rise of support to these parties by the people in many developed countries. So taking all of this background in mind, I would like to talk about the reason behind this research. Next slide. Climate change is a very important threat of our time. If the opinions of people is not understood, there will be political and humanitarian crises of proportions we have not seen yet. Even democracies and conferences are having a tough time finding common ground because of varied reasons, but one thing is for certain, climate change will not wait for us to find common ground, and it will affect people in many parts of the world equally. The picture on the left shows our climate change activists who after being disillusioned by their government took action. Here they are vandalizing a famous Monet painting. This might look like a very harmless threat right now, but the radical elements of our society will continue to grow, and threats are going to get bigger and bigger over time, unless our governments and us, we take action. The picture on the right is taken during a famine that is taking place right now as we speak in Somalia. This has been a recent development, and one of the major reasons is climate change. To avoid these humanitarian crises, to not let the radical elements of our society grow, to improve upon the current structure of conferences by understanding people's opinions, this research has been carried out. Now, with this in mind, let us take a look at how we carried out our research. I'll pass it over to Manasvi.
All right. Thank you so much for such a lovely introduction, Harshit. Moving on to the technologies and techniques we use to achieve the sentiment analysis of COP21 to COP27. So firstly, we needed to extract the tweets. So basically, we have done our analysis on the Twitter data. So first, we needed to extract the tweets from the website. For this, we used SNS Scrape library to extract the data. We chose this over a few other alternatives such as Twint because of its extraction limit. Next, now that we have extracted our data, we would want to apply lexicon for sentiment analysis. A lexicon is a very popular element used for sentiment analysis. It is a It is essentially a vocabulary or a dialect. Polarity lexicons in particular is what we are looking for our purposes and uses for our application. That is where Vader comes in. This provides us with the polarity lexicon. It is a rule-based lexicon that assigns sentiment value to a data from web-based media. There are like 3 steps for Vader Vader analysis. First is pre-processing. Over here, all parts of English language are tokenized, like capital words, punctuation are put into separate category, and after even emojis are tokenized separately. Once we have tokenized, post tokenization, the sentences are analyzed for valence calculation using bigram and trigram method, which is essentially called as boosting. Once we have the valence calculations, which is between the values of -4 to +4, we normalize our values between -1 and 1 to assign polarity. Over here, -1, so -1 will be negative polarity, 0 will be neutral, and +1 will be positive polarity, which will also define the sentiment of the tweet. Moving on to the methodology section, as mentioned above, the data collection and scraping is the first part we use. And for this, we use SNS scrape to access data from the Twitter. Next, next we come to the data pre-processing, where we first do some sort of data cleaning, which involves removing accented characters, URLs, hashtags, or any special characters, if any. Next we also remove the lowercase. Next we convert all our tweets to lowercase case box and apply any expanding contradictions if possible. All of this is basically done to level the playing field for all tweets to be judged in a fair manner. Lastly, with the help of Vader library, we generate the final sentiment analysis for each tweet. For example, the output comes as if a tweet is of positive or a negative or maybe neutral polarity. And for this, we use, of course, Vader library as explained earlier. I would now like Aditya to get us through the evaluation and results section.
Yeah, thank you, Manasvi. Coming to evaluation and results. So if you can have a look at the graphs, there are 2 sentiment analysis that we have performed for 2 time periods. One is the 21-day period during COP, and one is 7 days post COP. Reason being that during COP, there can be media that can influence the people. So we also want to see what happens after the hype goes down, and post the 7 days, what people's reaction. So we are starting here with the positive. The graphs that you see here are percentage. They give us an idea of what percentage of people, out of the data that we did perform sentiment analysis on, what percentage was a positive response. So if you have a look, these are for all COP21 to COP27. Since in COP21 we had Paris Agreement, which was a major agreement, and we also have had some other major events in COP26 and 27. So if we look at 21 days graph during COP for the positive events, we can see there is a slight increase in the positive sentiment of people. If we look at the 7 days post COP, we don't see any specific trend here. And if you look at the comparison, we would say that the positive is a bit more during the 21-day period. Now, moving on to the next slide, the negative. Now, this is something this is where we observe something interesting. So we see that during COP as well as post COP, we see a rise in negative sentiment. All throughout COP21 till COP27, there is an increase in negative sentiment. And if you see, especially in the 7-day period that we have, if you see in the comparison graph, that is where we see spikes in negative emotions. So assuming that the media influence would have come down post the COP event in the next 7 days, people might have gotten time to form their own opinions and might have thought about what steps our nation's taking, are the right steps, and do we need to do better? And they might have concluded that no, they need to do more than what currently we are doing for climate. Can you go to the next slide? So the neutral trends have reduced. And if you look at the graph, 21 days during COP as well as post COP, in both the cases, we see a drop in the neutral sentiments. Can you go to the next slide? Thank you. Now, this is the graph where we can see comparison between the positive, negative, and neutral sentiments all throughout COP 21 to 27 for both time periods during COP and after COP. If you have a look, what's majorly happening is the neutral sentiments, they are now gradually changing with time to negative sentiments. It's also possible that there was people might not have been as much aware about COP initially, and slowly with Paris Agreement, which was a huge step towards climate protection, it could have caused a lot of people to get to know more and research more about COP. And as they would have dived deeper into it, they could have concluded that, maybe we need to take bigger steps. These steps are not enough. The speed at which the climate is changing, we need to save it, and we need to take bigger steps for the same. So yeah, that's the evaluation. To you, Fahad, now. Fahad will take us to the conclusion.
Yeah, thank you, Aditya, and thank you, the member. In conclusion, we would like to say that things can certainly get better. Let us not lose hope. The data demonstrate that people are getting pessimistic since the conclusion of a few conferences in recent years. We can also understand that if aggressive measures are taken through these conferences, people will demonstrate a certain level of optimism again toward dialogue, diplomacy, and democracy. Yeah, please, next slide. Our model can certainly be improved upon all models. A few proposed ideas that we have are with the increase of number of people joining Twitter, more data will enable us to present the result of greater accuracy. The next idea is with the inclusion of more languages to this model, a better understanding of people's opinions could be developed. And the last one is further understanding could be made by understanding the perspective of developed and developing nations. This can only be done if geolocation data of content of Twitter site is available in the future. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you for listening to our presentation. Do you have any question, guys?
Thank you. Very nice research work, actually. Yeah, we can take up questions offline. Please do share your email address in the chat box also, so we can get in touch and plan with respect to some extra work which I have. I'll get in touch with you also personally.
Hello, everyone. My topic is the effect of carbon peaking and the carbon neutrality goal on stock performance of companies in the secondary sector of the economy in China. My name is Mingwen Zhou. I come from the Wenzhou University in China. So let me introduce my research. Firstly, I hope to explain that companies in the secondary sector of the economy in China is the main subject in this research. And Chinese carbon peaking and the Chinese neutrality goal could have negative impacts on these companies. So because I believe polluting companies are negatively impacted by this carbon goal. And I also developed that these companies with different types of industry or ownership in China. And I try to find out the difference. I hope to say that the secondary sector of the economy refers to, oh, sorry, I didn't start my video. Okay. Economy refers to the economic sector that produce a finished usable product production and construction. I believe the types of industry and ownerships make changes to the previous finding. And for the industry, I defined it with that the carbon intensive industries and non-carbon intensive industries. And for the ownership, I divided the companies into two groups. The first one is state-run group, and the second one is privately held group. So the general idea is mainly supported by this guy in his study in 2017 found that the companies with bad CSR images are more likely to have bad company stock return. And the value of the event study, which is the method that I use, is mainly inspired by Antoniuk research in 2021, and they found that the impact varies in different industries. In 2019, Chariri, etc., also found similar outcomes, that companies in carbon-sensitive industries care more about ESG policies and could perform better facing the related risk. And lastly, Guo, etc., give an interesting point of view that state-run or state-held companies are more likely to face more risks and get more negative abnormal returns than companies with other ownership in China. Because maybe you have the same idea as me. We may think that the state-run or state-held companies in China may have a better abnormal return performance because we know China gave much more support to those companies, but actually it's not. So based on those literatures, I developed three hypotheses. The first one is Chinese carbon goal will cause negative abnormal return of stocks to companies in the secondary sector of the economy in China. And the hypothesis two is for the industries. I think this goal will produce more negative impacts on the stock return to non-carbon intensive companies than carbon-intensive companies in China. And the third one is, I think this goal has severe negative impacts on the stock return to state-run and state-held companies than privately held companies in China. I mainly get my data source from the Chinese stock market and accounting research database. The sample period is 2020 March 2nd to the 2020 10/15. The sampling frequency is daily. The sample selection, I select the stocks with characteristics of belonging to the secondary sector of the economy, trading in Shanghai and Shenzhen A-shares, excluding growth enterprises market and Starboard, because the stocks in Shanghai and Shenzhen A-shares are the most representative stocks growth of Chinese stock market. I use two variables. The first one is average abnormal return, and the second one is cumulative average abnormal return. The method I use is event study. This method examines the difference between the return if the event did not occur, which is the expected return, and the actual return after the event occurred. This study uses CAPM model and the pharma fringe factor model to predict the expected return, and use the t-test and Patel test to determine the statistical significance. You can see the formulas here. So actually, the pharma fringe five-factor model is used by me to do some robust test. Yes, these are the supplementary formulas. So for the results, the first part is CAPM model. As you can see that the CAPM model gave us negative abnormal return, and the stroke on the event on the stock price is stronger and longer before the event. You can see the abnormal return before the event is -2%, and the negative abnormal return is negative 0.97%. We can also check this graph, which shows that the cumulative average abnormal return actually decrease after the event, which is a goal has been announced. These are the results for hypothesis 2. So the cumulative average abnormal return in different industries actually is indeedly different. We can see that the non-carbon intensive industry is more severely influenced by the Chinese carbon goal. And as to the different ownerships, we can also check that the state-run or state-held company is more severely influenced. We can also visualize those data, and we can see the similar result as we mentioned before. As to the pharma fringe five-factor model, unfortunately, the pharma fringe five-factor model didn't give the similar result as the CAPM model. I think this is because the pharma fringe five-factor model includes 5 factors, and those 5 factors explain the negative abnormal return. But we can also find some negative abnormal return after the event, even though it's not statistically significant. But if we divide those the whole samples into different groups, like in different industries, we can find that the non-carbon intensive industry is negative 1.14% and is statistically significant, which means those 5 factors could explain some negative abnormal return, but for the non-carbon intensive industry, the negative abnormal return is actually caused by the Chinese carbon goal, which means this kind of policies actually could make some negative influences to non-carbon intensive industry and make their stock return produce negative abnormal return. As to the different ownerships, state-run and state-held companies still give us the negative abnormal return result. So based on all those discussions and results, we can finally stated that the results supported all 3 hypotheses I mentioned before. The stock return of companies in secondary sector of the economy are not uniformly negatively affected by the implementation of the Chinese carbon goal. The industry or ownership type changes the Chinese carbon goal influence. In state-run or state-held companies receive more significant impacts. Non-carbon intensive companies are more affected. The pharma fringe five-factor model generates similar outcomes, but does not show positive abnormal returns for the whole sample because the factors explain the excess abnormal returns given by the CAPM model. And all the results support three hypotheses and validate previous research conclusions, such as legitimacy theory and China's state-run or state-held companies' poor risk resilience. So this research shows us that the legitimacy theory, we need to pay more attention on it. And if you are doing business in China and you are a company which is state-run or state-held, you need to pay more attention when those kind of pollution governing policy has been announced. Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening. This is all about my research.
I'll stick to the time, 10 minutes, because that is just professional for us to tell the entire thing, but just to give the brief idea on what we did. And I'm a professor at Ravana University, New Jersey, Rural College of Business, and a former dean of the College of Business. And I, along with my colleague Julie, we have investigated the strategic significance of the technology capability on farm performance via research and development in US-based small and medium industries. And we try to bring in new perspective so that it enhances the horizon of knowledge we have on small and medium industries. And what we're trying to establish is what are the factors that impact the performance of small and medium-sized enterprises. And most empirical investigations we saw, they revolve around large farms, with the understanding that more than 50% of global wealth is created by small and medium-scale industries. So our study shows the existence of some strategic relationship between research and development and the farm performance, and which we try to build analogy to the large farms and try to extend it to small and medium scale industries. And so this study attempts to present a different perspective of research and development and how it can be effectively utilized in order to make the economy grow in small and medium scale industries. And the competitive growth and performance are the key factors, but there are causes that cause the competitive growth and performance to occur. So we try to establish the link between R&D activity and their performances. And so this brings in, as I told you before, is a different perspective, and it utilizes key strategic business determinants, and that you'll be able to, you will know in just a few minutes. And the main research questions we addressed what is the strategic impact of research and development on farm economic performance with respect to diverse dimensions of farm performance? Just economic performance is just one of them. And how other key business strategic factors such as farm size, inventory control, management, credit policy, debt leverage, and capital intensity, they are linked to farm performance. And then what are the strategic relationship between research and development and farm performance after controlling other business factors that were just mentioned in number 2. And so this study, as I told you before, and let me not repeat myself, is an attempt to explore the strategic impact of research and development on the economic performance. And so overview of farm performances are the 3 key areas that we focused on: R&D, or research and development intensity, business strategic influences, and also the size of the firm, and we limited to small and medium sized firms. And so the research hypothesis here, they say the first one, R&D intensity is significantly and uniformly associated with firm performance in leading US-based small and medium industries. We tried to build in
ecstasy, it means a state of emotion, so intense that a control, also a sense or notion of intentionally beautiful bliss. From a Greek word which means to mind, stand out. The mind, because it is concentrated on particular emotion and on the ideas associated with and springing from these emotions. We must not make the mistake of thinking that ecstasy has nothing to do with thought. On the contrary, it is too much occupied with thought. In fact, it represents monomania connected with certain idea, state in which the person is occupation with a definite viewpoint, emotion, great grief or joy, pleasure or tragedy, enthusiasm, an idea or a cause are all ecstatic conditions. Great justice, an intense love for humanity, knowledge, beauty, knowledge, the emotions of a happy or unhappy lover, constitute and secular ecstasy. There are two kinds of ecstasy, which, though universal, may manifest themselves in such primitive forms to appear to limited circle. This paper refers to the ecstasy of chauvinism, of fanatical, local, unjust patriotism, and psychologically religious victim. This has paper elaborates also broad is conditions emotion beside the meaning and in a medical sense. It is understood adhering to or art, and the reader is brought into a similar state with the poet by reading the poem. Hence, there the poet writer describes his ecstatic state or draws the people into such a state. Because of that, the reader is also called as a poet just only because of ecstasy. Here, the author describe the definitions of ecstasy in various verses or also in various poems. The paper depicts the medieval Gujarati literature poems, specially selected a khas sect belong to extreme ecstasy level. Besides, Akha sects have a great emotions and thoughts in their naza, which so a high-level ecstasy emotion. The ecstasy of devotions and love is a secular feeling that we all are experiencing in this paper, and is the substance of Gujarati literature in verse. The paper all has many emotions as devotions, love, patriotism, forgiveness, and many more in that sex that has a universal appeal. In Akha sex, the whole snaza great example of unconsciousness art among medieval poem writers, and that the exemplified theory of ecstasy. Rakha was a mystic. Because of that, careful in our understanding of poet in these terms. He was not a poet in a narrow sense of an author of works in verse form. As a matter of fact, he viewed such poets with disdain as mere versifiers. He was a poet in a sense of a kavi, a bard, or a singer who is gifted with sight, enlightened, wise, sage. In a slide, it shows that Akash wants Naza as Vichar Ang. In a first lines, he describes about that the one's own from sections. Contemplate the self, and you will meet the Ram. Whose name do you keep uttering without understand? What makes it possible to speak, to move, and it not taken into account by the individual self? How will someone meet Hari? He also described that the person how meet Hari with with and also his ecstasy level. If with and also with a garland around his neck, he keeps chasing someone else. In a second lines of poems, he described that whoever grabs fullness is fulfilled. Others float away with the flow. A man who sees Hari everywhere because of his great emotions, his thoughts, that's why is practicing devotion in all its fullness. Whatever is there, Ram is appropriately there. In a Akha's Naza, Akha, all names are in his name. In a third lines of the Saza, he elaborates that straight back and keep the mind moving forward. Don't bring in the prejudice of actions to be bear witness. Already the mind is greedy for sensuality. The treatise will develop delusion and so it the mind. In the next Naza, it is truth eliminates falsehood, but everybody dislikes straight talk, as a lamp eliminates darkness. So the Brahma knowledge resolves the substance. The world has affection for falsehood. Akha, it does not understand the system of the loneliness. And in a last stanza, he described that like gliding gold with iron ore. Akha, you subside within yourself. Don't cling to the cordless of the others. In a next Naza, the Mafiang, in which about the sense of attributes operate the body bulliness. The turning the key keeps the saw running. The mind and all are the pieces of the props. Akha who understand the spiritual energy of the reed, things allows the final freedom. Here, the Akha's various Naza, which describes about the various parts of the verses. First one, the Panchikaran. Panchikaran belongs to the early works of the Akha's life. In it 102 Naza, it deals with the creation, preservation, maintenance, and reservations, and also dissolutions of the world. According to the Samakhya school of Hindu philosophy, it has no high poetic qualities, but it is noteworthy and simplicity of style, in which the poet has the most abstruse philosophical thoughts. In the next one is the Guru Sishya Samvad. In Guru Sishya Samvad, Akha has advised the Sishya not to look at the caste or status in culture of the Guru. Describe the characteristics of the Guru as he belonged to a true Guru and asked one in an ultimate analysis to become one's own Guru. In a Chitra Vichar Samvad, the poet has again stressed the importance of accepting the Govinda because when he accepting the Govinda, the emotions of the person is raising up as high level. The Lord who resides in one's soul is the only Guru. He has also discussed the relation between the Jiva and Atma. This work as a poem superior of above the two works. The next one is Akhe Gita. Akhe Gita is a magnum of Akha. It is testimony to everything. The Akha arrived as a result of serious reflection and personal experience of a lifetime. In his work, Akha has explained in simple Maya Sakti, Prakriti Sakti, greatness, majesty, Jana Sakti, Vairagya, Iswarya, and Kevalya Brahma. As this type of level which arise from the Akha's verses and Akha's Naza. Okay, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, Liz. Good work.
Good afternoon to all of you. My name is Supriya Kumar Majumdar. I am doing my PhD management part-time from ICFI University, Rajasthan. The topic is Challenges and Future Prospects of Coal Industry in India, a review. Coal is one of the major energy resources, contributing nearly 37% of the electricity production throughout the world. Current estimates are 1,116 billion tons of coal proved reserve in the world. Presently, total coal consumption has reached around 8 billion tons. As coal is an abundant and relatively cheap, there will be increasing utilization over the next 50 years. Hence, the mining of coal is being done. The contribution of coal as the primary source of energy is much higher in India than that of the world. At present, the total proved coal reserve in India is 95 billion tons. According to Coal India Vision, production of coal is expected to grow from 411 million tons in 2007-8 to 1500 million ton in 2030. A number of adverse environmental effects arise out of coal mining, such as generation of mine waste, dustland, subsistence deforestation, spontaneous combustion of coal, etc. As per the situation of supply demand in Indian coal sector is concerned, the coal sector in India in the recent period has crippled with demand and supply imbalances for a variety of reasons, such as sharp rise in power demand, supply disruption caused by extended monsoon and reduction in imports on the back, steep rise in international prices. This conference paper assesses the coal supply demand situation and its implication in Indian coal industry. The evolving recent trends in domestic coal sector are discussed in section 1, while section 2 contains the analysis of global coal consumption and energy. Section 3 delineates the trends in connected sectors such as electricity and steel and implication of coal shortages, if any, for these sectors. Section 1, domestic coal sector, recent trends I have projected. As far as domestic coal consumption remains constantly above domestic production, leading substantial recourse to imports. Around 25% of the domestic consumption during 1821, in Indonesia, Australia, and South Africa contribute about 80% of total coal imports. Prices of coal from these three markets inched up significantly in the recent period. Then the position is coming that the government is ramping up coal supply for domestic sources to ease the situation. To further improve the supplies, the government has allowed power producers using domestic coal to import up to 10% of their coal requirement. The government is also taking measures to augment production of coal over medium to long term to meet the rapidly increasing demand domestically. In this regard, the government allowed participation of private sector by launching commercial coal mining recently and has also launched the next range of auction of coal mines involving 40 new mines. Global consumption scenario has also been projected in serial 2. The energy demand globally dropped sharply in 2020, owing to contraction in economic activity in the face of restrictions imposed by countries to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. As per IEA, global coal demand dropped by 4% in 2020, the biggest drop since World War II, due to economic downturn inflicted by COVID-19 restriction. With upturn in energy demand, global coal demand surged in 22 as it constitutes a substantial part of total world energy consumption. IEA expects global coal demand to increase by 1.2% in 2022, exceeding 2021 levels. China has been the largest consumer of coal, followed by India, and both economies have recovered strongly, resulting in a significant jump in coal. In the pie chart 5, in the bar chart, I have projected the share of energy consumption by fuel in 2020, and in chart 6, consumption of coal by region. Then, coming to the third point, domestic coal use, electricity, and other sectors. Electricity demand shot up sharply in recent months, mainly driven by pickup in economic activity. As per the Ministry of Power, power consumption increased from an average of 107 billion units per month during August-September 2019 to 124 billion per month in August-September 2021. I have also projected the electricity generation situation, year-over-year growth, seasonally adjusted momentum in the following graphs. And also in table 3, coal statistics, thermal power plants situation has also been projected. And other section, apart from electricity, iron and steel, non-metallic mineral product, and refined products, petroleum products are amongst the major industries which also use coal and lignite as raw materials for their production. According to supply and use table 2015-16, MOSPI, iron and steel consumes highest proportion of coal as input. Chart 8 reflects that truth. Now the question is challenges and future of coal sector in India. India, it is evident, will continue to be significantly dependent on coal in the near to medium term to reduce the severity of the coal shortage that impacts electricity generation and in turn the Indian economy. It is important to work on a three-pronged strategy focused on better planning, infrastructure development, and increase of domestic supplies. India is the world's third largest electricity producer with an installed capacity of 399 gigawatts and annual generation of 1490 billion units. Coal currently accounts for approximately 70% of the total generation and dominates India's energy generation. Therefore, any aberration in the demand and supply pattern that result in coal shortage would have a dominant effect on India's energy market and with economy. In the pie chart, I have reflected the power generation capacity as on 31st March 22, and the source is Ministry of Power. In financial year 22, it has been noticed that the demand for coal was about 980 metric ton, while domestic supplies added up to approximately 777 MT. India continues to be heavily reliant on coal imports to the tune of around 210 metric ton, mainly from Indonesia, Australia, and South Africa. More than 80% of India's total coal production is driven by Coal India Limited. Of the total domestic coal production of 777 metric ton in financial year 2022, CIL and its subsidiaries produced 622 metric ton. CIL plans to achieve coal production of 1 billion tons by financial year 2026. Given the past rate of increase in production, India's reliance on imported coal may continue for a while. On the other hand, Government of India has taken many initiatives to increase domestic coal supplies to meet the demands on the domestic front. This includes introducing commercial coal mining for private companies, allowing captive miners to sell up to 50% of coal in the open market, planned investment of more than INR 50,000 crore on coal evacuation infrastructure auctioning of abandoned mines of CIL on revenue share mechanism, and introducing national coal index for coal trading. As mentioned at the onset, India, as part of its COP26 goals, has pledged to develop 50% of its installed generation capacity based on non-fossil fuel sources by 2030, reduce its projected carbon emissions by 1 billion tons, reduce the carbon intensity of the economy by 45%, and have 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel-based energy capacity in place. These form part of India's 5-point action plan, better known as Panchramit, announced at the Glasgow Summit in 2021 with a long-term commitment of net zero carbon emission by 2017. This will necessitate titling the mix of capacities under implementation in favor of RE projects. As far as conclusion part is concerned, the demand-supply balance of coal, especially in the case of thermal power sector, has worsened in the last few months, owing to both monsoon-related disruptions in domestic supply and lower imports. At the same time, demand from electricity surged on the back of rebound in economic activity and seasonality. The government is ramping up coal supply to build sufficient stock at thermal power plants, and the situation has eased considerably in recent periods. The demand-supply balance may, however, remain tight in the near term due to dwindling imports in view of high import prices and elevated shipment freight rates, and can be expected to ease due to waning of power demand in the winter months ahead. Given the large structural dependence on imports, the government is taking measures, including allowing participation of private sector by launching commercial coal mining recently, and processed for 133 coal mines under the 6th round of commercial auctions, of which 71 are new coal mines and 62 blocks are rolling over from earlier stages of commercial auctions. Additionally, 8 coal mines under the second attempt of the 5th round of commercial auction were also launched, as those mines have received only single bids in the first attempt to augment production of coal over medium to long term to meet domestic demand, along with efforts to increasingly ramp up production of green sources, that is natural gas, renewables, and nuclear. Increased transition to green sources in the medium to long run will also help India to achieve climate change related targets under the Paris Agreement and recently concluded COP26 Global Climate Summit 2021 in Glasgow. Government has taken many initiatives to increase the domestic supplies to meet the demands on the domestic front, though there is future potential of renewable energy in India with right investment in green technology for achieving renewable energy targets and pursuit towards cleaner energy. Coal will continue to play an important role in the energy mix till 2040 and beyond. India's domestic coal requirement will reach 1,500 million tons by 2030, for which the nation needs to scale up its production. Thus, in a nutshell, we can say no transition away from coal is happening in foreseeable future in India. Thank you, everyone, for a patient hearing. Thanks.
I'm so glad and lucky to be in International Academic Conference on Engineering, Technology, and Innovations. My presentation about performance optimization of rectangular microstrip patch antenna, Abdul Hafid Salem from Institute of Science, Üsküdar University in Turkey. Introduction. The antenna are one of the most important parts in the formation of any wireless communication device, and the development of the low-cost and small-sized antenna to work efficiently within wide frequency range in communication device. Researchers have been interested in this type of antenna. Microstrip antenna in rectangular shape is one of the shapes. This antenna usually use frequency in the level greater than 1 gigahertz, is used in many applications, such as telephone and satellite devices, as well as in aircraft. and can operate WLAN with the rectangular microstrip antenna at frequency of 2.45 gigahertz. Antenna design. We see here the rectangular microstrip antenna consists of two layers of the good conductive materials such as copper or gold, separated by an electrical insulating substrate layer. The first layer here acting as patch, and the second layer as ground surface. The substrate also affect antenna performance in terms of the antenna size and radiation range, and again rate and directivity. The size of the patch installed in the antenna is determined by the dielectric constant here of the substrate. One of the most significant aspects affecting antenna performance is shape and area and type of the patch material. Feeding of microstrip patch antenna. There are various methods for feeding this type of antenna. There are methods that use direct feeding, where the feeding line is physically connected to the reductive patch. We see it in with line feed and coaxial feed. And other method they use indirect feeding. This type of feed mechanism is also now electromagnetic coupling system. And we see it here in aperture coupled feed and proximity coupling feed. Here, this table for combining different feed technique with some characteristic as such as surprise false feed radiation and reliable and is of fabrication, impedance matching and bandwidth adjusted with impedance matching, and reliable and surprise feed radiation, spurious feed radiation. Advantage and disadvantage in rectangular microstrip patch antenna, like there is a lot of advantage such as lightweight, low volume, low profile, planar configuration, which can be made conformal, low fabrication cost, and easy for mass production, and linear and circular, linear and circular polarization are possible, and the dual frequency antennas can be easily realized. There are some disadvantages. Low efficiency, and the big disadvantage here is the narrow bandwidth. And this my study about optimizing rectangular microstrip antenna with increased bandwidth and low gain and low power. There are three methods for analysis rectangular microstrip patch antenna: transmission line model and cavity model and full wave model. In this study, I use transmission line model with a coaxial feed probe. With this model represent antenna as two slots with W and height H. by weak impedance Z at the transmission line of length L. Here, there are some field due to all the electric field originate from the batch return to the insulator. Part of this field returns to insulator after passing through the air, and because of that, it will be we have small difference in the electric constant is the electric constant effective. By this equation, we calculate width of the batch and the electric constant effective.
Mr. Hafid, I request you to quickly talk about conclusions as the time is exceeding.
Okay. Transmission line model. Transmission line model. There is point important here. The batch become fringent because fringent fill the extension of the batch length. I can calculate the delta L and the length effective and the length of ground surface. The method of optimization performance, there are 4 method: substrate specification, this relative primitivity near to 1, and feeding technique, and ballistic element on the single layer, and stacked batches. I use in my study by introducing ballistic batch horizontal coupled to the driven batch. Proposed design and antenna parameters here. In this design, mixed-tube antenna was adopted in this rectangular shape with coaxial feed by introducing ballistic batch horizontal coupled the driven batch with distance d and with the frequency 2.45 gigahertz, and the substrate used here material dielectric of material Rogers with 2.33 and with substrate thickness 1.5. After I obtained the result from MATLAB software, the designed dimension of antenna with this dimension. After that simulation, the rectangular mixed bus antenna built using microwave studio CST software with coaxial feed here. After simulated my design, I obtained this result. The return loss is 55.68 98 55.98, and directivity 8.218, and gain 7.833, and bandwidth at minus 10 dB 117.21 megahertz. The voltage of standard wave rate, the voltage standard wave rate value should be from 1 to 1 to 2. Obtained here 1.0056. And their activity here, radiation pattern without back loops, and without back loops. And here gain radiation pattern without back loops. Conclusion, in this paper, rectangular microscope patch antenna was designed to cover the 117 megahertz frequency spectrum at the frequency of 2.45 gigahertz with fixed radiation pattern without side or back lobes within the bandwidth. In this design, the mutual coupling between two resonant patches changes with respect to each other, resulting in mutual resonance, which increase the bandwidth. The thinness and thin size of this antenna make it simple to construct on substrate. This antenna is solid option for WLAN application. Thank you for listening.